Hello, my name is Darren Stoddart, and I'd like to talk to you about my company Dragon and our first product, DRAGONwagon. Dragon is a company that has a platform of tough products built to improve recreation. You can think of it like this: we're not the beach, but we make the beach better. We're not the soccer game, but we can make the soccer game better. We've got a product roadmap that includes things like gear hauling, which is where DRAGONwagon fits in, storage, and pop-up shelters. What we learn from our customers is that recreation isn't all recreational. Almost all recreational activities require some amount of gear, whether you're going to the beach, the mountains, a picnic, a sporting event, etc. The more people you have, the more gear there is. Particularly true when you have kids around. Team sports probably require the most gear, and moving gear is not recreational. So we've got a value proposition that says DRAGONwagon hauls 300 pounds of your gear, whether you're going from your Dodge to your Lodge, your Ford to the field, or your Smart to the sand. What we're not saying, while at the same time saying it, is that we can haul a lot of equipment at one time over almost any surface, and that we've got a product that fits in your car and is easily transported. The only other option is to do things the way they've always been done. People can buy a wagon for $100, spend $10,000 and buy an ATV. You can always find some friends to help, or just carry everything, no matter how many trips it takes. We've got a basic proof of concept with, we've already built a prototype of our minimum viable product, a wagon that hauls your gear. Here it is demonstrating a semi-autonomous mode. As I mentioned, we've talked to lots of different segments of customers. As you saw, we've been to the beach, taken it to the mountains, sporting events, and even to picnics. But the thing that we needed to do is find what was the best segment for us to pursue first. And we've chosen youth sports. Youth sports are an exploding industry. It's valued at over $15 billion. It's larger than the NFL. Market's grown 55% since 2010 and is expected to more than double in the next 5 years to 2024. Third largest expenditure in youth sports is equipment. That's where DRAGONwagon fits. Many families spend 10% of their monthly income every month on youth sports. $1,000 a month isn't even unheard of. What this means is that you've got a total available market of $5.2 billion at wholesale on sporting equipment. This is from the Sports and Fitness Industry Association. Let's take that down and say that half of that spending is on other equipment. Once again, same source. $2.6 billion. Soccer, which is a clear focus, is 61%. So we're trying to be conservative with the number. When we drop from serviceable market to share market, I don't want to drop down. I'd like to build it up. And I want to say that Dragon and the DRAGONwagon, we're looking for $10 million in sales. And what that would mean was about 4.4% of the serviceable market, or one unit each for 50,000 teams. Based on some quick math, that looks about 9% of the soccer teams in the country. So I'd like to introduce some of our customers to you and talk about the real emotional needs that they have in this category. So you can see that this goes all the way down even to the youth that are participating in the sports. I don't have that long until I'm in 8th grade. That's when college scouts start looking at me and I have to work my butt off. Then the parents say, but they're your kids, you'll do anything for them. And it's definitely taken over everything. And what they mean when they're saying that is TD Ameritrade did a study and they found that 23% of adults that have kids in youth sports save less for retirement. 19% are incurring more debt, 17% are delaying retirement, and 11% are cutting back on college funds. All this clearly involves a lot of money. Brings us to Carlos down in the lower left-hand corner. He's spending 12 hours a day on Saturday carting supplies at the tournaments, where the DRAGONwagon fits, all to help pay his fees so his kid can participate in sports. The way we're going to reach these customers is start with a Indiegogo campaign that helps with the cash flow and it helps confirm that we've built the right product and that we can get some momentum coming out of the gate. The next phase of that, once we've got a little bit of inventory, is to take it to soccer games, give it to people that can influence other people. What we found is this is very much a keeping up with the Joneses kind of market. And then finally, to really get this thing to scale and take off, to get that $10 million that we're looking for, we'll have to rely on traditional marketing as well as online marketing. Our traction to date involves over 50 customer interviews across 5 segments, including retailers. We've got a validated business model, and we've used the Pimento map to figure out where we might have some weaknesses that we should focus on. We've got a fully functioning prototype of the minimum viable product that you saw in the earlier video. In terms of cash flow, I'd like to hit some highlights here. So in year 1, we're looking at $500,000 in revenue, up to the $10 million in year 3. The units we expect to sell for around $200 a piece at the wholesale level. So 2,500 units in year 1, 50,000 units in year 3. Cost of goods, the cart, $125 each. You can follow the numbers. Freight, about $20 a piece. Then other expenses, we've got a note there that says in year 1, we're going to spend most of that on crowdfunding. In year 2, it's about building those samples to give out to the sports team. And then year 3 is the advertising I mentioned. Gross profit is calculated from that. SG&A is a number that's devoted in year 1 to just doing the right thing for the people that help get off the ground. Year 2 is when we could pull in some real employees, perhaps up to 10. And year 3, we imagine it would take 15 employees to do what we're trying to do. Net profit ranging from $72,000 in year 1 up to $1.25 million in year 3. So the team as it exists so far is myself, the founder, large group of students at Drexel University that have helped me refine the concept, in addition to all those customers that I've talked to. So for myself, I've got 30 years in new product development. I've spent time at Bear and Kills. I've spent time at Newell Rubbermaid. I was with Sunbeam. And over that period of time, I've launched hundreds of products, patents attached to many of those. I've also spent some time in global sourcing leadership roles. And within the next 12 weeks, I will have wrapped up my MS in Creativity and Innovation with a minor in Entrepreneurship on top of my undergraduate degree many, many years ago in Industrial Design. So hire number 1 needs to be somebody with branding and social media experience. That's a weakness for myself, and it's something that I think got identified in the Pimento map as something that I could really use some help at and do better with. The first relationship we need to build, however, is with the manufacturer. That's where I'll rely on my experience in global sourcing. To wrap this up, I'd like to tell you how you can get involved. The first thing I'd like for you to do is as simple as go outside. It improves physical health, reduces obesity, increases life expectancy, reduces depression, stress, unites family, and encourages volunteerism. That takes me to my next point. What I learned and what I hope you picked up on is that youth sports have gotten very, very expensive, and that's leaving a lot of people out. There's a great piece of research that you can find from the Aspen Institute called The State of Play, and it tells kind of how dire this has gotten. I came across this organization, Good Sports. Goodsports.org is the place you can find them. Please go there, click Equip a Kid, then click any sport you want. Pick the sport that you're most attracted to, or general fitness. Uniforms and clothes there start at $5 a piece, and I know that will help a lot of people out. And finally, send me some feedback on this pitch. I'd love to hear what you think. If you think that I should take the DRAGONwagon a step further, or if you think it's time to retire the idea. Either way, really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to wrap things up for the ENTP690 class. So I'm going to start pulling some concepts together based on the pitch that I just delivered. I tried to deliver the pitch as if you're an investor, and genuinely I am interested in your feedback. So on the DRAGONwagon product and business model, early on I said this is a luxury item and that price wasn't an issue. I really probably could have done a better job of keeping that in mind as I went forward, because it definitely played itself out again with the market that I found or identified that's best suited for this thing. The Arduino circuits found online cannot be relied on. I talked about that early. I continue to try to get my robot working. I've got a small functional prototype, but I've not scaled it up yet for a number of reasons. So lesson learned there. The other thing about it is I invested a ton of time trying to get that thing to work. And really I didn't need to, because I think just the idea of a powered cart is what it needs to be. My network was amazing. I really have better connections than I even gave myself credit for, and I think that's important and help build confidence over this course. I don't know how that could have come up otherwise. The other thing was I could have cut bait and pivoted a little earlier on the semi-autonomous driving mode. One thing that I haven't talked about before now, but I'll just give you a really quick example. If I had that thing fully functional and it could follow you or me down the street, and let's assume that somebody ran across the street in front of it, that has I've got no practical way to build it in for that obstacle detection and avoidance. So essentially, you're talking about something as complex as a self-driving car, and I don't have time, money, or interest in that. The next one is what I learned about customers and customer development. I learned quickly that my social footprint is really limited. I did a poll on Facebook and got really pretty limited results. The video that I posted had some really funny and interesting feedback that led me to get a couple more interviews, but my reach is just not very broad. I need to work on that. Storyboarding works. Videos, even faked ones, work even better. I learned that spending on youth sports is absolutely outrageous, and that the emotional needs are really deep. So that came up in conversations that I had, and then also in some of the sources that I reference as I'm going through the pitch. Income disparity is significantly compromising sports participation rates. Once again, that goes back to this Aspen Institute article that I mentioned. Please take a look at it if you have any interest here. It's really kind of scary. And not kidding, go to goodsports.org, buy a shirt for somebody. The next thing is look for purpose in the customer base. So thinking about companies like Tom's, that's not where I was going with this thing at all over the quarter, and nothing like that had started to evolve out of any of my interviews. There was really no reason to do it other than to fulfill the needs of a course, develop a product that may or may not be interesting, try to find a market, etc. All of those noble causes, right? Plenty of companies built on interesting products that have good customers that buy a lot of things. There wasn't a lot of purpose. And when I got my hands on this Aspen Institute article and saw what's going on, the fact that people generally just don't go outside anymore, almost terrifying to me in a sense. So that led me to some new purpose, and I feel great about being able to say, I found good sports and you can do something with it. The other end of it that's really important to me, and I think what I'm trying to communicate and looking for purpose in your customers, is if I'm selling this to youth sports and I'm using some of those profits to put it back into the youth sports, I can keep some momentum going and help build what it is that I'm building for. So I think there's something to that, and I'm going to continue to look for that, whether this item moves forward or I do something else. The pimento map was a pretty interesting exercise. For me, brand development, sustainable differentiation, intense competition, and growth and scalability were the things that came up. The tool, I think, is a little weak in spots. Some of the verbatims that it spits out were clearly canned and contradicted each other, even in my case. But there were a few things that I picked up on that certainly weren't top of mind for me, like this notion that I am positioning myself as a niche competitor and developing a product with a real commercial advantage. So I can pull that off. Sustaining it is the thing that I've got to work on. So in the pitch, I say the first hire would be social media expert. That's the brand development piece. Sustainable differentiation is why I expanded DRAGONwagon, the product, to Dragon, the platform or the company, and built a bit of a product roadmap underneath that. Intense competition is interesting in that it's not really a branded category, but there's a lot of people that can make a wagon and put a motor on it. So I've got to pay attention to that. Growth and scalability, I think, is a bit of a bias of the tool because the tool is looking for people that are trying to build the next Facebook and get $10 trillion. And that's not where I'm at. That's not where I believe Dragon or DRAGONwagon is at. So I believe that it's got growth and scalability options. $1.25 million in the bank would be A-OK by me. So for the next 3 months, I've kind of broken this into 3 different areas here. I've got customer development, product development, and personal development in April, May, June. So on the customer side, I'm going to share this pitch deck that you saw at the beginning publicly, certainly with everybody that I interviewed, and see what kind of feedback I get. I'm genuinely interested. Then in May, I'm going to try to broaden that reach based on learning more about social media, which is my first point in personal development. And then if all that works out, In June, I'll consider launching an Indiegogo campaign. On the product development side, I need to start looking for a supplier. Where I'll go for that is manufacturers of mobility carts. I've pulled powertrains out of them before for theater production related things and had good success with it. I know they're durable, sealed motors, etc. So I'm going to head that direction. In May, I'd be looking at doing some field testing and then design for manufacture, as in trying to really dial the thing in so it doesn't have things it doesn't need and has everything that it should. And then June, try to pull in a manufacturer's prototype to align with that Indiegogo campaign. So what gets shown there is closer to live than maybe some of the campaigns have been in the past. On the personal development side, once again, learning to leverage social media is something I need to do. It's not a personal interest, but as an entrepreneur, that's something I've got to figure out. In May, explore the Indiegogo platform. I've scratched the surface of that and looked into it, but I've not launched clearly, so I need to learn more about that. And then June, I'm going to explore IP protection options. One of the learnings over the term was big companies can spend a lot on patents and they can spend a lot on defending them. I'm not there, but I do need to go ahead and button up copyrights, if nothing else, and do what I can to try to protect it and build the long-term sustainability into it. And then finally, for anybody that's next in line, anybody that wants to try to do this, should I not be the person and Dragon not be the company, I would focus on the market between carts and ATVs. There's just got to be something between $100 and $10,000 that would make a lot of sense, both on the consumer level and then in hotel and hospitality, commercial level stuff. I'm convinced, based on the customer development, that there's something there. Then I would also suggest, as I noted earlier, look at how mobility scooters are disassembled for transportation. One of the key parts of DRAGONwagon needs to be that it can get broken down, thrown in the car, minivan, SUV, etc., to help move things when it gets to where it's going. So mobility scooters have been doing that for a long time. It's a good place to start. As I mentioned, I've ripped a couple of them apart for other projects, and it's a good way of looking at things. Be careful with that follow me feature if you want to do it. You're going to essentially be building a self-driving car, and if you've got the money and the time and the interest, and you can find the customers that are willing to pay for it, go for it. But that's not something I'm going to keep chasing for now. And then find a muse. For me, it wasn't any particular person, and I don't even know that it was the Aspen Institute paper, but this idea that there's some people that need some help, and that I might be able to do something to help them, really put some big new energy into this project right at the very end of the quarter, which was a wonderful, beautiful outcome. So thank you for taking the time to watch this. I've really enjoyed the class, and I wish everyone the best.